Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced by North Idaho College located on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guests.
We're most pleased to bring you a two-part series both this week and next week, and our topic is public education in America's 21st century. It is our purpose on these two programs to honor individuals in public education. It is my view that without public education, we would not have the great democracy that we have today. It is a literate citizenry that promotes a democracy. So it is very fortunate on our part to have two teachers from the Coeur d'Alene School District in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. They have been chosen because of a special honor they received in the last 2 years. I first of all welcome to the program Nancy Larson and congratulate her for being, in the year 2000, Idaho's Teacher of the Year. She teaches second grade at Ramsey Elementary School in the Coeur d'Alene School District. Nancy, welcome to the program. Congratulations to you. We're very proud of you, and thank you for sharing your thoughts in the next 2 weeks.
I'm very glad to be here.
May I add with great pride that you're a former student of mine, and so
yes,
I could not resist that, especially with the honor that you've had. I know you had a lot of great experiences with different teachers over your time of your own formal education. And secondly, I welcome to the program Judy Beasy, who was the 1999 Idaho Teacher of the Year, and she also is in the Coeur d'Alene School District. She teaches first grade at Hayden Meadows Elementary. Judy, congratulations to you. We're very proud of what you've accomplished, and thank you for taking time to be on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
There must be something secret about working in School District 271, Coeur d'Alene, having two Teachers of the Year. The administration there knows how to select great teachers. So welcome to the program. And as always, I'm very pleased to have our two regular panelists. First of all is Janelle Burke, who is an attorney in the state of Idaho. And next to her is Steve Schenck, who is Vice President of College Relations and Development at North Idaho College. And we shall commence today's questioning with Janelle Burke.
Well, it's very interesting to have you here, and we need to know something about the selection process. And let's start with you, Nancy, because you're most recent. What happens when you're selected? How does someone go about selecting you as the Teacher of the Year? It's a great honor.
It starts right with my peers. It starts at the school level. Every spring, 3 people are selected from the school to then go to the district level. And at the district level, then one person is chosen to represent elementary school, 1 for middle school, and 1 for high school, and then overall 1 person to represent the district. So it was a great honor because it came directly from my peers and the people I work with every day. Then from that point on, I'm given actually the National Teacher of the Year application, which then goes to the state of Idaho, and it's reviewed by the previous Teacher of the Year, by legislators, by Dr. Howard, people who work at the State Department, and PTO members. A wide variety of people then evaluate and then score each application according to different entries that were made. For me, it was nearly the full summer to fill out the application because it's very extensive. But it also helped me to refine my philosophy about teaching, who I am, what I stand for, and what I would say if I became a National Teacher of the Year.
And so that's how you were selected. Mm-hmm. And then do you go on further from there? I mean, does the Idaho Teacher of the Year compete with all the teachers across the country?
Yes, that same application then goes to the national level, and it is reviewed by a panel from the Chief Council of State School Officers, and the NEA is part of that, I believe, and then they choose from the 54 state teachers of the year, 4 people then to do an additional series of events. They go to private interviews and do some more writing, and then one of those people is then selected to be the Teacher of the Year for the nation, who in the year 2000 was Dr. Marlon Worry from California.
Now, Judy, I suspect that your process was about the same, but can you confirm that, first of all? And then secondly, can you tell us a little bit about some of the exciting things that have happened to you when you were Teacher of the Year?
Yes, the process that Nancy went through was the same process that I went through. And since I was her predecessor, I was able to read her application first for District Teacher of the Year, and then I also read it for State Teacher of the Year. So that was quite an honor and exciting time to be able to do that. We had many wonderful opportunities during the course of our year. I think common to all State Teachers of the Year are some events, and they include January of their year of honor. Folks go to Dallas, Texas, where all State Teachers of the Year meet for the first time, and the coordinators go there. And so it's an opportunity to get an idea of what you're in for the year and to meet these other wonderful people. February was a time when the state honors their State Teacher of the Year, and this year's State Teacher of the Year, Dr. Eileen Thornburg, was honored yesterday at the Capitol with a reception from Dr. Howard, and the governor was also there. So that was a very special day for her. Other events include going back to Washington, D.C. Later in the spring for a wonderful opportunity to meet the president and to be introduced to him and to meet the Secretary of Education, and again to dialogue with our colleagues. An opportunity comes to go to Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. And this is a special space camp. It's International Space Camp. It's all the Teachers of the Year, plus teachers from about 25 other nations. And we're put together on teams, and we have the opportunity to participate in shuttle experiences. The learning curve is enormous. We work from 7 in the morning to about 10 at night for about 8 days, but it is a marvelous, marvelous learning experience for all of us. And then in the fall, there's an opportunity to go back to Washington, D.C. for the National Teachers Forum, which is run by the Department of Education. Work again with Secretary Riley and with the wonderful teachers that have been on staff at the department. Of course, now we have a new Secretary of Education, so there's been a little change there.
Steve Shink. Well, first of all, congratulations to both of you. That's a wonderful honor that you've both received. I wonder, Tony has already introduced you, but could you take us through a little bit more about your background, training, years of teaching experience, and that sort of thing? Anything that Tony didn't cover that would be of interest to the audience?
Yes. I started teaching 10 years ago. This is my 10th year of teaching. I went back to school as an adult and started here at NIC, then went to the University of Idaho program here on campus, obtained my bachelor's degree in education, and then started teaching at Ramsey, which was a great honor because it was the elementary school that my daughters were attending at the time. Then I continued to work at University of Idaho and achieved my master's degree. And then after that point, I was teaching, and I kind of needed a little bit of boost after about the third year of getting my master's degree. And an opportunity arose to go through National Board Certification. The J.A. and Catherine Albertson Foundation supported an initiative in our state to pay for teachers to go through the National Board process. And it came at the right time for me. So I did go through that process, and then about a year and a half later found out that I had achieved National Board Certification. So I think of National Board Certification as probably the highest honor I could have achieved because I aspired to do that. I worked very hard to do that. And of course, being the State Teacher of the Year has also been an incredible honor because it came from my peers. Now I am part of a fellowship through the University of Idaho to obtain my next degree, which will then lead to my doctorate. I'm not quite sure when that will happen, but I'm hoping within the next 3 years I'll have done that. I have also been active in our district on curriculum committees. I've been lead teacher at my school, which as a lead teacher I had a full-time intern in my classroom for mentoring. Then I was able to go out to my peers and provide any assistance that they might need, especially in the area of language arts. And then throughout the district, the team of lead teachers worked together to coordinate across the district a common language and language arts and common goals. So those are some of the things that I've done.
Thank you. And Judy, could you share some of your background, additional background,
Sure.
too, please?
I cannot remember a time in my life when I didn't want to be a teacher. It's a concept that I don't understand. When my children went through the years of not knowing what they wanted to be, I was absolutely no help because I always knew what I wanted to be. So I went to school in Central Illinois at Illinois State University at Normal, received my undergraduate degree, And my husband was in the military, so we spent a few years overseas where I taught in Scotland and then in Guam. When we came back to the States, I took off 10 years from teaching to get our children to the point where they were ready to enter school. And once our boys were in kindergarten, I went to NIC's counseling department and asked for advice on what I should do, because I didn't think there would be any opportunities in education. And his advice was to pursue my credential in Idaho. He felt that there would be opportunities. So it took me about a year to get that up to running, and I substituted for 3 days and was hired on by the district. So it was wonderful advice that I received from NIC in that regard. I've been teaching for about 18 years now here, and I also went through the national board process. And I chose to do that because I was tired of listening to some of the naysay talk about education. And I knew that what I was doing in the classroom made a difference for children. But I had no evidence that proved that outside of myself. And you can't always blow your own horn. So I thought, all right, I'm going to go after national board certification so that I have an outside source that confirms that what I do is good for kids. And it was the most incredible educational experience I will ever go through. I went through the same year Nancy did. I went through State Teacher of the Year at the same time. It was a very interesting year, but a wonderful year at the same time, and received my certification. And as a result, have decided to go back and get my master's, so I'm working on that now through the University of Idaho and should have that by next spring. But that's what's brought me to education and kept me here.
Wonderful. And again, congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
What wonderful stories, and also what great articulation you have in representing all teachers that are in our public schools. You have certainly set the stage and the credentials for my question, and that is, I would like for you to, which I'm sure is easy, to defend public education. And Nancy, I shall start with you. And let's talk about K through 12 in particular, and what is going on today. And as you answer this question, please feel free to talk about changes you've seen from the past until now. Just kind of give us a mission statement of what we're doing with public education K through 12.
Okay. K through 12, we are working with children from a wide variety of circumstances. So what we need to become is experts on all kinds of children and all kinds of needs, and also experts in many different disciplines. We now need to be very technical, and we need to be computer literate. We need to be experts in reading and how to diagnose those problems. We also need to be experts in, especially in the younger grades, to be nurturers and to know how to meet needs of children. At this point in education, I think we're preparing our students for jobs we don't even know that exist at this point. So instead of teaching them isolated facts, I think that now the expectation is that we will teach them to be literate, to be able to think and reason, and to be able to problem solve, to find answers when they have questions. They may not always be easy, but to be able to search for them. I see children who come to us with many needs, children who come from backgrounds who are very enriched and have experience already with computers, and they have lots of reading experience. So in school, that is a very natural extension of their day. So I teach them how to read more and those kinds of things. But then we also have children who don't come from those homes and who have circumstances where their basic needs are not being met. So we also, as teachers, need to recognize those needs and be able to supply the right resources for them through community workers, through our school counselors, through those kinds of needs. So we also need to be attuned into what society is doing at this time. The change that I have seen over the last 10 years, and that's not a broad span of time, but I have seen that many more parents are working. They need to work. 2 jobs in a family is very common, but I also see single-parent families. I see families who love their children very much and want the very best for them, but they're not always prepared to be a partner in helping them achieve the things that they need. So then the responsibility falls upon the teacher and the school system to do those things.
Thank you very much. And Judy, would you elaborate and also go into other areas, what your views and your experience concerning where we've been and where we are in K through 12?
I have to agree with some of your opening comments. I truly believe that the educational system we enjoy in the United States allows us to have the democracy that we live in today. It is with that literate populace that we are able to work together and to respect the Constitution that was written so many years ago, yet applies today. Our students in school are a microcosm of what goes on in our society. So the opportunities they have to work together, to build relationships, to understand rules and regulations, to set laws within their classroom, are all part of the bigger picture of what our democracy is. And our children on a daily basis learn to interact with each other, learn to be respectful to each other. One of the changes I think I see in our schools more and more is a lot of children, for circumstances beyond their control, come to school having had few experiences with adults or with children. The give and take, the play, the opportunity to learn together and construct understanding about their life. And so when they come to school, the school provides an opportunity, a structure that allows them to grow and understand these concepts and understand the relationship between themselves and an adult, themselves and their peers, so that they begin to understand their relationship as they are part of a literate society, a democratic society in our country. It's a wonderful opportunity that we have that few other countries have, and I think sometimes we forget what wonderful opportunities we have, that there is the potential for anyone to go as far as they want, to do whatever they want. What an exciting thought for a child who has nothing, for a child who has everything. The sky is the limit for them, and it's because of the system that we have.
Parents that have children in both of your classrooms are very fortunate because you have a certain energy, a certain positiveness about you that can inspire those children. So part of that I can see is an important part of the picture. And then in my next round I'll have some other questions on specifics of education, but I must go back to Janelle Burke.
I want to ask a question about the basics versus all of the new technology that's occurring. And Judy, let's start with you this time. How do you prepare students? Now, I know that your students are very young yet, but is there an emphasis on the 3 R's, on the basics of education, or are we seeing a real trend away from the basics?
I do not think we're seeing a trend away, and I really don't think we ever did. I think it might have had different names at times. I think it might have taken on another style that we were perhaps not familiar with as the folks who had preceded through the system. But I think that the 3 R's will always be the basics that we need. Students need to know how to read. They need to be able to understand how to find information and use that information, apply it to their world. They need to have a basic understanding of math facts. It's the alphabet of mathematics. If they don't understand that 3 plus 3 is 6, then they're not going to be able to do the other things. So those basics always remain. They are a part of it. And I think in many respects, we have done a wonderful job of really increasing the writing skills of children in classrooms today. That has been a very large emphasis, I think, across the nation. And children are having opportunities to express themselves in a literate manner, much more so than when I went to school. I know I spent a lot of time, here are your 5 sentences, copy them off the board. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? But for our children today, we're really trying to get them to express their thoughts and ideas on paper, and we do that at a young age, and that carries through the grades. So it's a wonderful thing to see going on.
Nancy, what about the computers? Do you have computers in your classroom?
Of course. Yes, we do. And it's amazing to see what children can do on computers. But we're using them more as tools to aid us in what we do. For instance, at this point, I'm teaching a unit on the solar system. And the internet has provided so many exciting resources for us to see. We can see real-time footage of the planets spinning out there in space. That's incredible. And although we can't feel and touch them, it does make it much more real for them. So technology has brought to us, just broadened what we can do. Go back to the basics. Yes, I teach reading, writing, and math every day, and that is the focus of my instruction. And as Judy said about writing, that is something that I especially focus on in my classroom. I think that children, in order to be part of that democracy as they grow, they need to express themselves, and writing is one way that they can do that. I have students who publish books. They write every day. We have pen pals, and we write to important people, and we read our books to people in our schools. So we have lots of opportunities, but the basics are always there. Spelling is important, the capitalization is important, all of those things, they're there.
Steve Sheen.
Judy, I'll start with you on this round, and I was struck earlier in this program about both of your descriptions of your experiences as Teacher of the Year. It's clearly much, much more than a plaque, an honorarium, and a testimonial dinner. How did that experience, either preparing for the process of being selected or the experiences that you had after you were selected, how did they change you as a teacher?
I think they fed my fire. Someone who always was discontent with the status quo is even more so discontent with the status quo now. I'm always seeking more answers, wanting to learn more, wanting to understand better what's going on. So I think that those experiences in many ways broaden my horizons, looking beyond my school, my district, my state. But as I say that, I have to also tell you, there's a plaque or a sign that hangs outside my school now that mentions that I was the Teacher of the Year in '99. I have been many places. I have done many things over this time. But driving that car into that parking lot and going back to my children is always what I want to do. It is where I'm rooted. It is where I belong. It is what feeds the fires even more than anything else that I have done. So it has changed me and expanded my world, but it has also made me realize even more that my world is in that classroom, and I appreciate that.
Nancy, same question. Did the process of being selected Teacher of the Year change you as an instructor?
Very much so. I have had the opportunity to speak with some of the most dynamic people in education today, inspired by Secretary Richard Riley and even former President Bill Clinton, and what he said about teachers was very inspiring. I think that now I consider myself much more of a professional than I ever have in the past, and I'm very honored and proud to say that I am a teacher. Again, all of those things have let me bring back to my classroom a teacher who is more inspired, more prepared, more excited about learning, and more honored. When I think now of my classroom, they are a part of the larger community of the state, the district, and the nation. They are pupils in our nation. And going back to some of the functions that we had were in Washington, D.C., were very appropriate because it even brought a new sense of patriotism to me. In the morning when I say the Pledge of Allegiance with my students, it brings to me all of those teachers and all of those states are together saying that same pledge in honor of our country.
We don't have a lot of time left, but if Tony, let me follow up briefly. Has that inspiration that you two experienced spread to your colleagues in your schools?
I'll speak to that, if I may. Yes, because one of the things that my principal did early on in my year was to honor me at a staff meeting one morning, and he said, as you travel and as you go about your business this next year, remember that we're all sitting on your shoulder. So wherever I go, whenever I do, I think of them there. And when I go back, I tell them what we've seen so that they can share in it. If we could just take an opportunity to let one other colleague do one of the things we have done, how marvelous it would be. There are so many phenomenal teachers in our district, in our state, and yet we, for whatever reasons, we're the only ones honored. And yet they every day do what we do, but they do it quietly, without recognition, because they love children.
Nancy, we have a little over a minute left. Your thoughts on that same question?
I'm inspired by the people that I work with. Being a part of that team has made me what I am today, and I am part of that team, an extension of them. So what I have received is what they receive too. I've just been the fortunate one to have done all of these wonderful things, and every time I go back to them, I say, I wish you could have been with me in body. You were there in spirit. And I remember their energy and their dedication, and that's what continues to make me be strong when I'm away representing them and the state.
Thank you.
We just got a little more time. Another quick question. How have your children that you love so much in your classroom reacted to your honor, or the parents? Judy?
It's been delightful. I think I will be in baby books forever, because that's where these articles go, into their baby books. And the parents are just delighted to share that with you. And I have received notes from families that I worked with years ago. It is so heartwarming to hear from children and from parents that you worked with in past years. I've just loved it.
Same, Nancy, about 20 seconds.
They've been absolutely wonderful. They've been very accepting of my schedule. I have a wonderful person to fill in for when I'm gone, and they've been very supportive. It's been really fun for them. They've had their picture in the paper a couple of times too, and they love it.
Thank you both so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been discussing public education in America's 21st century as we've moved into that century, and we've had two great models of public school teachers, and they've spent a lot of time talking about this great experience when they were the Teacher of the Year, in the case of Nancy Larson in 2000 and Judy Beasy in 1999, the Teacher of the Year in Idaho. The good news is they're coming back next week to be with us and to continue to discuss both of their philosophies on education, and we will be very specific in some of the things. We've already talked some about their philosophy and how they use technology to assist the students and how they take on a larger role than they used to, with parents both working in many cases. And I hope you will be with us next week when we will again discuss some philosophical question within public education. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running entirely college-produced program on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us again at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station. Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced by North Idaho College located on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guests.
We're most pleased to welcome each of our viewers to part 2 of our 2-week series titled Public Education in America's 21st Century. We have our guests back from last week, and for you who were with us last week, I'm sure you would agree with me that they articulated in the most effective way what public education is all about. They have been chosen particularly because of the honors they received as outstanding teachers. I welcome, first of all, to the program Nancy Larson, who was the year 2000 Teacher of the Year in the state of Idaho. She teaches 2nd grade at Ramsey Elementary School in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Welcome back, Nancy. And again, for those who weren't with us, we want to congratulate you again for this wonderful honor that you had last year.
Thank you.
And our second guest is Judy Beasy, who was the 1999 Idaho Teacher of the Year. She teaches the first grade at Hayden Meadows Elementary School in Coeur d'Alene. And you were back to back, and congratulations to you too,
Thank you.
Judy. I can see from last week's program why you both were chosen throughout the state of Idaho, where there's thousands of teachers. Thank you for coming back, and on this second program we're going to spend a lot of time on, again, your philosophy of where we're going in public education in this new century, and actually a new millennium. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I welcome our regular panelists, Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in the state of Idaho, and Steve Schink, who is the Vice President of College Relations and Development at North Idaho College. And Janelle shall open up today's questioning.
We had a wonderful conversation last week, and I want to continue with that. But I do want our viewers to be able to understand what an honor it is to be chosen as a Teacher of the Year. So, Nancy, can you tell us a little bit about the process that you go through? And when you've finished with that, Judy, would you tell us a little bit about what the Teacher of the Year does, some of the events?
Mm-hmm. It starts out right at the school level, and my peers selected me as one of the applicants or participants from my school. And then I went to the district level, and at the district level was selected as the elementary Teacher of the Year, and then the overall Teacher of the Year to represent our district. Then my application needed to go to the state, which was a much broader application. Took most of summer to write. It was also the National Teacher of the Year application. At the state level, it's reviewed by a cadre of legislators, educators, business people, and then one person is selected. Then that person then goes on to represent the state of Idaho in the National Teacher of the Year program.
And Judy, what are some of the kinds of things that Teacher of the Year does?
Teacher of the Year has opportunities to meet with the other Teachers of the Year a number of times during that year, both in Washington, D.C. and in Dallas, Texas. The year includes an opportunity to meet the President and the Governor, and a chance to work with all of the Teachers of the Year at a national forum. Probably the highlight, though, for all the teachers is the International Space Camp they get to go to in Huntsville, Alabama in the summer.
Steve Schink.
Well, again, as I said last week, to start my round of questioning, congratulations to both of you. It's always fun to talk to people who truly love their work, and it's apparent in both of you. And last week, Judy, you told us that you knew from an early age that you wanted to be a teacher. What attracted you to that profession? What was it that you hoped to find there and to accomplish?
I do not know what attracted me to that profession. There is a quote in the Bible, and I even used it in my application, that says some people are called to teach. And I truly believe that I was called to teach. I think it rests right there. It's something I've always wanted to do. There's not one teacher who stands out in my mind. It is something within me that I've always wanted to do. So I had no other thoughts.
Thank you. Nancy? I don't think you didn't comment in the last show, at least, that this is a lifelong ambition of yours, and you actually came to teaching a little later in life. What
Yes,
was
I
it that
did.
attracted you to the profession?
I think it was watching the learning process with my own young daughters, watching them from day to day. I was an at-home mom, and seeing the thought process that went through their minds and beginning to understand their world was intriguing to me, and that's when I first started thinking about learning. But then as a learner, when I was in school, I loved learning. I was fascinated by it. And going back to school as an adult opened up new doors of learning and just even fed my fire even more. So the learning process is really what brought me to teaching.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As we have moved into a new century, and there's changes in every field, including education and technology, we talked a little bit last week, certainly is impacted. I would like for both of you to take a little time to deal with some of that technology. I'm thinking of computers in particular. I've had the opportunity recently to watch small children on computers, and we talked about reading and writing and mathematics, all of this, or the 3 R's. I know you're using that vehicle to make learning more exciting. I watched second graders show me on a computer how they were advancing their vocabulary and how they were doing math. Hasn't that been a real advantage for you? Judy, we'll start with you this time.
I think it's been a huge advantage. We've been very fortunate in our school system to have opportunities to put computers into our classrooms, and in most of our schools also have computer labs. Our kids, if they come from a home that has a computer, are quite literate when they walk through the door.
Even in the first or second grade?
Even in the first and second grade. And for first graders, it's often an opportunity for them to get on a computer and use a mouse for the first time. The programs that I have on my machine are pretty much opportunities for them to work on their skills, those reading, writing, and arithmetic skills, in a very fun medium for them. That instant answer for them, that recognition, that success, really feeds their fire of what they want to do next. So it's a very powerful tool for children in the classroom.
Nancy, what's your experience?
Mm-hmm. I again use it as a tool to enhance what I'm doing. We have one program I'm thinking of in particular that they love to work on. It's a writing program. Only they can insert sounds and pictures. The computer will read their stories back to them. They can draw. They can create stories that they couldn't normally do on their own. Being able to push the keys enables them to do a lot more writing. And then, with it being able to read back to them, they can hear someone else reading it and say, oh, that doesn't sound right, I need to fix that, and do it without any teacher intervention. And when they interject the sounds, they love sharing it with other students. When we go to our computer lab time, which is about 45 minutes a week in the computer lab, they never want to leave. And then the computers that we have in the classroom, we have to share. They always want their time. They never want to give that up either because they're very motivated.
It opens the world up to me. It's so much fun that learning just is enhanced, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Makes your life easier.
Mm-hmm. I think they live in a media world. They need to see those things. That's what their brain is used to seeing those things. So it just enables them to learn using those as well.
I know at the level that you teach, the parents are deeply involved with you and the children. You have conferences with parents. This is, I hope, almost a humorous question. Are some of the parents a little bit shy that their children know more about computers than they do if they went to school years ago, or particularly their grandparents? So,
oh, definitely.
How do you deal with that?
Well, it's not just the parents and the grandparents. There are times that my children will know something that I don't know. Every time I think I've moved forward 3 steps, that computer's going to stand me back 1. And the kids, a lot of them have had such great experiences that they know how to get you out of it. They know what to do. They're not afraid of computer technology at all.
And I found that more and more parents are getting computers in the home, and so that's another way for me to communicate with them through email. And so I'm finding that the parents who have computers, they are coming in and helping me in the computer lab. They're a great resource. Mm-hmm.
Yesterday I had the privilege of visiting with Pam Pratt, who's the principal at a new elementary school in Coeur d'Alene. It's Skyways, it's called. And she took me into the computer lab, and it's just a marvelous new building and incredible setup of computers. And she was showing how sophisticated the children were. And so my question to her, which I'll share with you, and that, as I said to Pam, is it possible to cope very effectively in this century, the 21st, if one is not computer literate? And therefore, I asked her, is that why? Obviously, you're starting it so early. How would you respond to that question? Start with you, Nancy.
Well, I would be fearful if I didn't know how to use computers because they're all around me today. And my husband, for instance, has been just bucking the system. He's just not going to do it well. This last month, he took his first computer course, and he's really excited and on fire about it, too. I think it's going to be very important, and as technology changes, these students will have the mindset of what it's like to be technically literate and be able to make those changes much more easily than the people who have never been working on a computer. They know very little about technology. So I think as we guide them through, this is their future.
And Judy, the computer ties us to the whole world, and so on the first show, Nancy was talking about how she used the computer to even open the universe to them. So do you approach your students with that, how it is going to tie the world together, even from a cultural basis and diversity in the world?
I think to a great extent the children come in knowing that they are comfortable with computers and with that technology. And my first graders may not be really aware of the fact that we're not very culturally diverse in North Idaho, but they are very aware of the worlds that they can open up when they get into the computer and they go places. When we get into great sites for children, they just love it.
Thank you. Janelle Bird.
Tony talked a little bit about a new school in Coeur d'Alene, and both of you, of course, are from fairly new buildings. But what do you think about this idea of new schools versus old schools? So many of our schools are getting up in age, and they maybe aren't plumbed, if you will, or the electricity isn't there for all of the computers that might be needed, or some of the other kinds of things. There has been a great change in the architecture of schools.
Yes.
And so what do you think of this argument? Is it the teacher that makes the classroom, or is it the physical surroundings? And is there an argument there? Either one of you can jump in on that.
I'll jump in on that one. I don't think you can have any one of those things in isolation. I think good teachers are essential for children. I think opportunities are essential for children. My own children went to one of the oldest schools in the district. It's 76 years old now. And while they were in school there, my boys had to go to move their classroom into the gymnasium so that the ceiling in their classroom could be secured because the plaster was falling off the lath. No child should have to go to a school where they're not physically safe. And I think that that's incumbent upon all of us to provide that. It's essential. So that's something we need to look at. Someone sent me to school and took care of the building I was in. Someone sent you to school and took care of the building you were in. We are now sending a whole new generation of children to school, and we need to take care of the buildings they are in. And if that means lath and plaster, then it's lath and plaster. If it means electricity so that they are able to run a computer, then that's what it means, and not turn off the lights. But essential to all of it is that human being. Because I don't think we'll ever get to the day where the technology replaces the teacher in the classroom. I think that technology will always augment what can occur. But that teacher is critical because we are human beings and we are social in our setting in schools, and that is part of our democracy. So you must have all those elements together for the good of the children.
I also think the teacher is the most important factor there. It means that the teacher may have to overcome some obstacles to provide the best classroom she can or he can for those children. I work in a building that was designed for about 450 students originally. We've seen that school blossom to over 600 students by adding portable units. That puts a strain on the infrastructure, and we share a gymnasium that doubles as our cafeteria, so that in itself provides us some challenges. Is it the best situation? No, but we have overcome those things. We've worked very hard to do that. I think we are at this time trying to remedy some of those situations. Our portable units went from 8 classrooms down to now we have 5 classrooms that we're using in portable classrooms. And the building on the inside, for instance, Ramsey will be receiving walls next year. Now, I know that sounds a little funny, but our building was built in the 70s with an open concept. And as such, there were no plugins on those portable walls available. So we have one wall that has power to it, which provides interesting opportunities to gather around the outlets. So I see that we have challenges, but the teacher can meet those challenges.
Steve Sheen.
Judy, I'm not sure we mentioned it on this show, but I do know from last week that you've taught outside the continental United States, in Guam and in Scotland.
Yes.
I'm particularly interested in your experience in Scotland. How is the educational system there different from the one here, and are there elements of it that you'd say, gosh, we ought to try that?
My experience was the essentials were the same, but the materials and textbooks were quite different. Mm-hmm. They work with a minimum of materials and a minimum of textbooks, at least when I was there. Now, we're talking a few years ago here, but I'm not sure that it has changed all that much. The school had a headmaster instead of a principal, and he was an authoritarian figure. I'm very glad that our principals are much more humane in their approaches to children than the headmaster could be at times. But the And folks learn to make do with a lot less than we have in our buildings today.
Anything about the system you did admire?
No, I think we do it better.
I'm glad to hear that. Let me change direction a little bit for my next question, Nancy. I know, having spent some time now with the two of you, that it's not a problem for you, but we focus a bit at our level, and I'm sure you do too, on teacher burnout. Many people don't understand the stress that's placed on teachers, and I think repetitiveness, and there is an element of repetitiveness to teaching, it is a factor. How do you keep yourself fresh and challenged and excited about what you do?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I have a very good family support system, and I've always attributed my success to those people who have been there for me. But I also find that keeping myself active and learning has been a very big part of keeping myself going. I also surround myself with other professionals who are upbeat and also willing to learn and to work toward common goals. I find that those teachers who start becoming burned out may not have those people around them to keep them going. They may have large classrooms and behavior problems then to compound the problem in those classrooms without the amount of support that they really need to keep going. So for myself, I try to keep refreshed. Other people don't always have that available to them. And I found as the Idaho State Teacher of the Year, I had opportunities to find out what it's like in other states and what's going on there. I find that they face many different problems than we face here. They have a great deal of poverty in many areas, and that provides many problems for them. They have teacher shortages, and some of the teachers who are in the classroom have minimal degrees, not even bachelor's degrees. Many teachers are teaching outside of their expertise area. They may be teaching math, but they were a history teacher to begin with. So those kinds of issues also force teachers to become burned out early on.
And Tony, if you allow me to go back to Judy real quickly, because your answer made me think of this. I think recognition is a factor too, and our teachers don't get enough recognition. Was that different at all? Was the position of teacher honored more in Guam or in Scotland than it is here?
No, I don't think it was. Guam has a Teacher of the Year who is part of the program, the national program in the States, because they are a territory. But in Scotland, I'm not even aware of them honoring people at a building level.
Thank you.
On our first program, we just briefly mentioned the fact that life has changed drastically for students who come to your school. In our modern world and in our fast-paced world, and because of economic conditions, it's very understandable that parents work to provide for their children to have a brighter future. And some of those working hours are very long, and therefore the children do not have as much time with their parents as it was once the case. And so, as you've indicated, the schools take some of that responsibility. Would both of you share with us, do you have programs either in your school or around the country, as you both traveled, where the school is open more hours to take care of children beyond what is mandated by law of how many hours you're to have children in curricula development? And you have evening programs, and just how are you coping with taking on this extra responsibility that's so important to those children?
Mm-hmm. Some of the local programs that we have a well-developed program called School Plus that provides before and after school childcare, and so it prevents those children who were once latchkey children from being at home. They have now a safe place to go. And also within that structure, they have someone to help them with homework, and they have other friends to play games with and to interact with. We also have something in our school called Apple Corps, where we have volunteers who come in after school to work with children who need a little extra help in homework, and maybe someone there to provide answers, but they have also become a little bit of a mentor to those children too, someone to look up to, someone to look forward to talking to when they after school. I've seen children interact with high schoolers who have actually become role models for them and provided another adult person for them to interact with.
Judy, are your experience similar?
We have similar programs at our school. We also have a program called the HEART program, which is really just beginning to grow in this area. Businesses in the community recognize the need to connect children to teachers, or to children, And so they allow their employees to take an hour out of their work week, come to the school and read with and to needy children, and then return to work. And that hour that they're gone, well, hour plus because of the travel, is part of their salaried week. So that's been a wonderful bonus for our kids as well. And in our community, we are blessed with a marvelous youth volunteer organization run by Donna Messenger. Those children, those young adults, are great high school kids who are always available to help with children, to work on projects. We're very blessed to have them.
So the community has responded to this need, and
Yes.
as we've moved into a different world. Janelle Burke.
My guess is that there are a lot of people out there who are parents and grandparents who are watching this show. If you had one tip to give them, and let's start with Nancy, a tip to parents and grandparents about what they can do to help their student be successful in school.
Yes, well, I think if I had to give only one, it would be to read to them. Read to them as much as possible in a wide variety of literature. Let them see you reading and interact with them as you're reading. Share a story, not just watching television, but really interacting with the book, and then maybe extending it and doing an activity with that.
And how about you, Judy? What would you suggest?
I would certainly agree with Nancy, but I would also say your responsibility as a parent is to be the adult. You do not need to be a friend to a child, but your child will respond to the parameters and the guidelines that you provide for them, and they will flourish within those boundaries.
So I'm guessing you're going to say, love them a lot and send them off to school with secure in the fact that they're loved and they're ready to learn.
Absolutely.
It's real obvious to me that you two love the profession that you're in, and also ought to be obvious to everyone that you've succeeded at it at the highest possible level. I want to talk to you a little bit about your thoughts, though, about the future of the profession. And I wonder, as master teachers, if your schools are giving you an opportunity to work with younger teachers in your schools or in your districts. Is that time available to you? Are there programs like that in your schools?
Well, there has been a program in the past. Judy and I were both lead teachers for a school, but it was funded through a grant, again through the J8 and Catherine Albertson Foundation. Once the grant money expired, then we were not able to continue that program. We were mentoring first-year teachers one-on-one in our classrooms. Right now, the state legislature is providing some money for mentoring new teachers. The mentoring would come then from other teachers in the building who have been there for a while. So I do have that opportunity. I've also been an instructor for the University of Idaho, and I've taught seniors almost ready to become teachers. And so I've had a great opportunity to reach out to them and help them define philosophy and invite them to my classroom on a more informal basis. Then they do go out into the community and work with other mentor teachers as well and come back and share their experiences in the classroom.
Judy, have you had that opportunity, and are you personally aware of any young teachers who are struggling? I'm sure the first few years are the most difficult.
The first few years are the most difficult, and the state has begun to recognize that and is providing mentoring opportunities for teachers through their first 3 years, because the research shows that if we're going to lose them, we're going to lose them between the third and fifth year. And we can't afford to lose our new teachers and our brightest people, because we're going to have a large population of folks who are going to be ready to retire in the next few years. But I've also had opportunities to work with student teachers, and all of our state schools have really revamped their student teaching programs. And so this year I have a student teacher from Lewis Clark State College, and she's with me for the entire year. When I student taught many years ago, it was 9 weeks. Teaching is much more complex, and that speaks to it right there.
That's an excellent improvement. And if I can follow up, we don't have a lot of time left, but someone, I think it was you, Judy, mentioned that there are schools that are dealing with non-certificated students. I believe that's a very big problem in California. Are you seeing teacher shortages in your schools?
We are not in Coeur d'Alene at this time. We both served on what's called Idaho's Most, Maximizing Opportunities for Students and Teachers. And the survey research that has come back from that really indicates that we're not experiencing the shortages here yet, but they are coming in special education, math, sciences especially.
And one of the indicators I think that is a local issue is that when we need a large amount of substitute teachers, they're not available for us. So I think it's starting here, and that's where it's showing up.
Thank you.
All kinds of studies, national studies on education quality for our students has to do with class size. And since both of you have traveled across the country, is it good news or bad news? Are we making progress on reducing class size where the ratio between teacher and students is a much more reasonable one for more time with the students?
I wish that I could say that the outlook was bright. The previous administration had an 8-year plan to reduce class size and was working toward that goal. We're into our second year of that. We'll continue next year. The new administration does not support that same program. In our district, there have been some very positive things happening. In first grade, we've had federal money to reduce our
I'm
class
so sorry
size.
to interrupt, but time is up. The clock always wins on the program. On behalf of our panel and our staff, I would like to thank Nancy Larson, who was the Teacher of the Year in Idaho the year 2000, and Judy Beasy, who was the 1990 Idaho Teacher of the Year. It's been a great joy having you on the program last week and again this week, and may I, on behalf of the panel, once again congratulate both of you in this wonderful honor, and you've had a number of other honors, and thank you for what you're doing for your children in your schools, and would you share our appreciation of the other teachers? We think public education is in fine shape. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite you to be with us again next week at the same time, and we will move to yet another subject. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running entirely college-produced program on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us again at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.